Alright, this video is going to be how to adjust and dial in a carburetor for a 1955 5.5 horsepower Evinrude. So I've cleaned this carburetor already, rebuilt it completely with a new float, new jets, new gasket, everything. It's ready to be set and tuned to do a cold start on my restore. So first thing we're going to do is take the holding nut. The longer, bigger one is for the low speed, and I'm going to just screw it in by hand. And I'm going to take the holding nut for the bottom, which is the smaller one, and I'm just going to screw it in by hand. Okay, hand tight. Right? Now I'm going to take my low speed needle valve, which is the longer, slender one, and I'm going to put it in there, and now I'm going to add my knob to it, make it easier to turn. Alright, now I'm going to screw it in clockwise. All the way until it's hand tight. Hand tight. Then I'm going to take a magic marker and I'm going to mark the top dead center. Alright, I got it marked. Alright, now I'm going to come out 1.5 turns. Right, so out 1.5 turn. Alright, 1.5 turns for the low speed. Now I'm going to take a 7/16 wrench and I'm going to tighten down the holding nut. Till there's enough tension now. There's tension on the turn, and I still got it out 1.5 turns. Now I'm going to take my high-speed jet, do the same thing. I'm going to get it started. I'm going to add my knob. And I'm going to turn it clockwise, bringing it in. Till it's snug. Alright, just snug. And then I'm going to mark the top dead center. Okay, and then I'm going to tighten my locking nut. Alright, I'm going to bring it out 3/4 of a turn. Three-quarters of a turn. Tighten the locking nut till it's got some friction and it's difficult to turn. Alright, so I got them both set. I'm going to repeat it now. The low speed, which is the top, is turned counterclockwise out 1.5 turns. The high speed, which is the bottom jet, is turned out 3/4 of a turn. Alright? That's the start. Now you're going to put it on your motor, set it in the barrel, and you're going to dial it in. And I have videos of a cold start and dialing it in that you can go to on my playlist. What's going to happen, you're going to put it on the barrel. If everything is right, you're going to choke it. Second or third crank, it should start. You unchoke it, it'll sit there and run, but run rough. Okay? Now we're going to dial in the carburetor. Alright? So you take it and you throttle up to about half speed, You got it running in a barrel with no prop on in the water. Run it about half speed. It'll run and shudder. You start turning the high speed in clockwise, 1/4 of a turn at a time, 1/8 of a turn at a time. When you make that 1/8 of a turn, give it 2 or 3, 4 seconds for the motor to adjust to that. It should start running faster. 1/8 of a turn, it'll start running faster. Another 1/8 of a turn, it may start running faster or it may start running slower. When you hit to the point where it starts running slower, back up 1/8 of a turn, it'll start running good. That's the sweet spot. 1/8 of a turn either way, and it starts to run less, then you found the maximum high speed. That's the sweet spot. Then I'll back it down to the idle position and do the same thing with the low speed. 1/4 of a turn, 1/8 of a turn in. Watch the adjustment. Motor ought to start picking up RPM. You ought to be able to idle down a little bit better. Same thing. 1/8 of a turn, starts idling better. 1/8 of a turn, idles better. When you find the spot where it starts to idle rough, come back counterclockwise 1/8 of a turn till you find that sweet spot. 1/8 of a turn either way, and it runs worse, but it runs better right in the center. That's the sweet spot. Your motor ought to idle good, and it ought to respond quickly when you open the throttle to go to high speed. All right? So just remember, low speed, 1.5 turns out, adjust it in, 1/8 of a turn at a time. High speed, 3/4 of a turn out, adjusting in, 1/8 of a turn at a time. That's how you dial in a carburetor. Good luck. Stay tuned for the next video. Hope you enjoyed the video. Here at T-Mike's Vintage Outboards, we're doing it one motor at a time. Please click on subscribe. I guarantee to provide weekly videos. Au revoir mes amis, and laissez les bon temps rouler.